I just want to talk real quickly about some geopolitical plate tectonics. I like looking at politics from this geopolitical level where you have these huge, slow moving forces that we, as little fast creatures, can get our heads around. You never know what's going to happen in a particular collision, but when you see a plate drifting, it's going to keep drifting until it collides with something. And it's going to collide with another continent and go all weird. And these things have some predictions to them just because they're happening so slowly that even though if they were sped up, it'd look like a jumble. At our speed, we can make sense of what seems like it happens in general. Now, the collision can be with an unknown force. You could have the Illuminati out there, and maybe a new generation takes over the Illuminati, and they're all like, and they exist, and they're all like, hey, let's do it right, and they change the world overnight. Who knows? Unseen underground and underwater plates can play a role. But there's certain things like, China taking over the world. On the other hand, I don't want the current Chinese government, but it's not going to stay the same. I mean, I think Chinese democracy can emerge. Growing up, when I saw, well, I was already grown up, but the Tiananmen Square thing, that guy standing in front of the tank, it still brings a tear to my eye. It's a thing about antinatalism that I'll never be an antinatalist, because then I would just think what he was doing was worthless, or that he was out there ready to die because life, had to be shitty. And in reality, life doesn't have to be shitty. That's why he was out there. And, it's a touching scene. In China, I think the Chinese have a lot of smart people in their culture. And who knows what will happen. I think they are taking over, and it would take a continental collision to alter that. They are... I think it's going to be slow enough that I probably don't have to learn Chinese, but it seems like an interesting language. All you young folk out there, I mean, you should probably start learning it. It's interesting. It seems expressive. So anyway, that's your thing. So another thing I was thinking about was Germany. As I'm growing up, and when I was 8, for a year, my mom was in the military. I lived in Berlin. And there's all this Cold War espionage and stuff, and Germany was split in two, and this is an old historic area, and if anything, Hitler was all about, he didn't like being split off from Austria, let alone now, because of him, Germany split in two, ha, I hope you're rolling in your grave, you jerk. On the other hand, it was kind of harsh on the German people to be broken in two. And I think there was some plate tectonics in a situation like that. You can see by the West keeping Berlin, just this anchor. So similarly, I don't know if people know, but I believe the Korean people are the biggest ethnic group of people in the world, and they've been split north and south for arbitrary reasons, not of their own fault. And I think it's inevitable. I think it's something we should help work toward and help happen. I think it's something the world is going to be just waiting for. The Korean people need to be united, and so that looks difficult, but I think there's a plate collision. They're either united or the plates just collide and there's huge explosions from it, and that's how the first world nuclear war starts. No offense, World War II, but just because you ended with a nuclear bomb, I mean, nuclear war is still going to be a little bit different. A war that starts with nuclear conflict, that'll be different. So, there's a lot of that. It was obvious in the 90s, and with countries splitting up into their original sovereign states. But what about the ones that are split? I think that's something we should look at in the 2010s here. Unification.